SeaWorld Orlando. SeaWorld draws in over 3 million people a year. This park is filled with awesome animals, shows, and great coasters. With the park reopening 2 days ago, many are excited to get back to the park. Today I'll be telling you everything you need to know to have an awesome day at the park. I got 2 visits in last August on a Saturday and a Thursday, so I got a decent feel for the crowds. I'll also be talking about some of the changes you'll be noticing at the park this summer. Before I go over all you need to know for your visit to the park, I just like to make sure you're subscribed because over half of you watching right now aren't subscribed, so just make sure to hit that red button down below so we can get started. When should you go? Like most of the major Florida parks, SeaWorld Orlando is open 365 days a year. This is obviously great for flexibility, as you can visit any day you want. However, like Busch Gardens, the hours vary on a few factors such as time of year and what day it is. Monday through Thursday, the park is usually open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is the case for the whole year except the summer and other times where the park may be busier. Friday through Sunday will usually have the longer hours. Park is usually open until 8 p.m. or later on the weekends, most times during the year, maybe with the exception of off-season months like January or February. My 2 visits in August were both pretty different from each other. The Saturday visit had crowded midways and decently long waits for major attractions. My Thursday visit was less crowded and the rides had little to no waits. However, most of the coasters were running only one train, which I'll talk about in a minute. If you can, try to avoid Saturday, but if you end up going on a Saturday, it's really not the end of the world. Tickets, passes, add-ons, and other packages. There are many different options on choosing your ticket or pass to get into the park with. Since Busch Gardens and SeaWorld are owned by the same chain, they have similar options for tickets and passes. The most basic option is a one-day ticket, which will give you the least bang for your buck. The next step up is a 2-day ticket, allowing you to visit SeaWorld and a park of your choice, or you can visit the park for 2 days if you choose. The 3-day ticket abides by the same rules. There's also a ticket that will allow you to visit all 4 Florida parks that with unlimited access for 14 straight days. If you are a coaster enthusiast in the area, then I recommend purchasing the 2-day ticket and using those days to visit SeaWorld and Busch Gardens. Parks you can use the ticket at are Busch Gardens Tampa, Aquatic Orlando, and Adventure Island. Also, as of June of 2020, there's a limited time offer that will allow you to visit SeaWorld and Aquatica for a discounted price. So if you're interested in visiting one or both of those parks, you may want to consider purchasing it. Also, if you plan on visiting Discovery Cove as well, you don't have to worry about buying tickets as you can buy them with your ticket package as well. I have a full review on Discovery Cove on my channel if you would like to see that. If you plan on visiting more than 2 times a year, I recommend purchasing an annual pass or a fun card that you can customize to your liking. You can also add a dining pass to any of the pass or ticket options I mentioned above for the duration that your pass or ticket is good for. If you think the park may be busy on the day of your visit, you may want to consider purchasing a quick queue. SeaWorld's quick queue is very similar to Busch Gardens' quick queue as well. The most basic pass will get you on each major attraction once, and the most expensive pass will allow you to do every attraction as many times as you want. I honestly wouldn't recommend buying this unless you really hate lines or want to marathon some rides, or the park is just slammed. Lines don't get outrageous here, so you likely won't need it. There's one difference between this system and Busch Gardens' system. You can actually get reserved seating for shows with this pass, so if you want that, it may be something to keep in mind. I actually purchased this pass on a Saturday. It really only helped me out on like 1 or 2 rides, so it might be something to think about. Also, an insider tip is that if the prices are below $30, it means the park won't be very crowded and you won't need it. I recommend buying anything mentioned in the section online. However, if you ever change your mind once you get to the park, you can always purchase it once you get there. Hotels and transportation. Getting to this park and finding a hotel is not hard whatsoever. Orlando is a vacation destination that is easily accessible on flights. The Orlando International Airport is like a 5-minute drive from this park. It's very close. You can either rent a car or use Uber and other various methods of transportation to get to the park. Now, for hotels, there are so many hotels in the area. When I was in Orlando, we actually stayed at a condo that was about 10 minutes away, and it was very roomy, and it was actually pretty cheap. Two of the best hotels are Renaissance by Marriott and Hilton Orlando. I've never actually stayed at them, but I've heard they're really awesome. Also, there are plenty of cheaper options around the area, so you're pretty much set. Ride order and tips. Ah yes, this is probably the section where a lot of you came here for. Also, a lot of you are probably here to learn about the shows, but I'll get to that in a minute. So the lines here are actually pretty inconsistent, but I'll tell you what seems to be the trends. In terms of lines for the coasters, it usually depends on how many trains they're running and what day it is. Manta seems to get the longest lines. Mako and Journey to Atlantis seem to get long lines some days as well. Kraken almost always seems to be a walk-on or a station wait. They're supposed to get Icebreaker for the season, so knowing the trends of this park, I expect the lines for that coaster to get pretty long because it'll have the lowest capacity of all the major coasters. Infinity Falls and Empire of the Penguin are the only other rides besides the coasters that get lines here. If you want great views of the park, then I recommend doing their observation tower because you'll get some awesome views of the park and some great shots. It's hard to keep a ride order because people want to squeeze in shows whenever they see fit. But for the people focusing on knocking out all the coasters and rides, my first recommendation is to get to the park 20 to 30 minutes early, because then you'll be able to get in the park quick and be ready for rope drop. I'd first advise going to Manta and getting that out of the way. I'd then hit Empire of the Penguin, because that seems to rack up lines, and hit Journey to Atlantis and Kraken. Next, I'd recommend heading up to Mako, because that area isn't open until 10 a.m. no matter what. I'd also then hit Infinity Falls, and then if you like credits, hit the Kiddie Coaster in Sesame Street. Lastly, I recommend doing Wild Arctic, and that'll take you pretty much full circle. With Icebreaker opening in the near future, I'd probably add Icebreaker at the beginning of that list because it'll probably get longer lines than anything here. You can just track back and do the whole route over again. You should probably be able to accomplish this in a few hours, then you can circle back for your rides or watch a show before lunch. Also, similar to Busch Gardens, it tends to rain a lot in Florida, and there's a good chance your day may be interrupted by a storm that could shut rides down. A lot of people will actually leave the park if this happens, so the lines will be a lot shorter. Make sure you check the weather forecast before the day of your visit. Shows and animal exhibits. Now some may ask why SeaWorld always seems to be crowded, but the lines are always relatively short. Well, a lot of people actually come to SeaWorld just for the shows, and to be completely honest, the park wouldn't be what it was today if it weren't for them. Now, by no means am I an expert on the shows, so take whatever I say with a little grain of salt. There are 3 major shows at SeaWorld. They are called Orca Encounter, Dolphin Days, and Sea Lion High The Class. These shows are all more educational based, opposed to entertainment based. You'll still see some cool tricks by the animals, but that's not the main focus anymore. They obviously still have those massive stadiums, so it's always really cool, but SeaWorld is trying to be more of a rides-based venue, so the shows are starting to fade away a little bit. But I still recommend checking them out because they're very unique experiences. Also, there are some great walkthrough experiences at the park. There is a cool shark exhibit over by Mako that I really enjoyed. SeaWorld does a really good job of adding animals as a good experience to the park. Every SeaWorld park I've been to, I've always enjoyed the food. I've been to 6 different parks run by SeaWorld and never had a problem with the food. I only ate one meal at SeaWorld Orlando, but I enjoyed it. I had that meal at the Expedition Cafe, and it was basically some pasta with some tempesto sauce, and it was pretty good. Voyager Smokehouse looked very good as well, and as they served some barbecue, which you guys, if you watched the last video, you know I love that. And there's also a really nice sit-down restaurant called Shark's Underwater Grill that requires reservations. I've heard nothing but good things about SeaWorld's food, so you probably won't have any issues finding a good place to eat. Icebreaker and other 2020 changes. So as I mentioned earlier, SeaWorld just reopened to the public 2 days ago. With that, there will be some changes if you'd like to visit the park. In order to get into the park, you'll have to have a reservation through the park's reservation system. Face masks or coverings will be required to enter. There will be temperature checks, and if you have a temperature of 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, you will not be permitted to enter. Social distancing will be enforced in the park. Also, extensive cleaning measures will be taken to clean the park. Another thing I wanted to address is Icebreaker, the new for 2020 Premier Rides launch coaster coming to the park. We don't know when it'll open, and we really don't have much of a clue. It's possible that this coaster may be delayed until 2021. To conclude, SeaWorld Orlando is an awesome park that you can have an awesome day at if you plan well. They have 3 great coasters and some other cool supporting attractions. SeaWorld is one of my favorite parks in Florida and is a must-do on a Florida trip. Did I miss anything in these tips? Do you agree with them? Do you have any questions for me? Put all those thoughts down in the comments below. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and since you made it here, you may as well like and subscribe as well. But with that being said, I'll see you guys all in the next video.